Hotep, greetings. What I want to talk about in this post is the mental universe, which correlates back into the first principle of Deity: all is mental, mental is all. The mental universe, or understanding the concept of it and how it works, is very key and very important in understanding and grasping the concept of it, especially when one is working any type of system of spiritual magic. One must first visualize in the mind what they're trying to carry out. They see it, they play it out in their mind, they visualize it, and they see the outcome. This is important, or a very important concept to understand when working spiritual magic. That would be called fueling the intent, or creating what you want to play out in the mind. So you formulate the thoughts in the mind, and then you bring those thoughts, which you fueled with energy or intent, and you bring it to the objective realm. This method and system is applied on a multitude of levels. So we're going to kind of build on that and focus on that in this particular session. I'm going to take some information out of the Kabbalion, or correctly the 7 principles of Tahuti, by the 3 initiates, and just get into the aspect and focus on the mental universe. Alright, so let's go through this. The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. So we're going to also talk about this quantum physics concept of what all is. Okay? The all is spirit, but what is spirit? This question cannot be answered for the reason that its definition is practically that of the all, which cannot be explained or defined. Spirit is simply a name that men give to the highest conception of the infinite living mind. It means the real essence. It means living mind, as much superior to life and mind as we know them, as the latter are superior to the mechanical energy and matter. Spirit transcends our understanding, and we use this term merely that we may think or speak of the all. For the purposes of thought and understanding, we are justified in thinking of spirit as infinite living mind, and at the same time acknowledge that we cannot fully understand it. We must either do this or stop thinking of matter at all. I'm going to read this last section. Let us now proceed to a consideration of the nature of the universe as a whole in its parts. What is the universe? We have seen that there can be nothing outside of the all. Then is the universe the all? No, this cannot be, because the universe seems to be made up of many and constantly changing. And in other ways, it does not measure up to the ideas that we are compelled to accept regarding the all, as stated previously. Alright, let's stop here for a second. What tends to happen, and where people get lost grasping this concept of understanding creator, creation, and understanding its place or its scheme of things or its system of things. The problem is, as it said back here, we go back up. When it used on the term spirit, it says it's simply a name that men give to the highest conception of the infinite living mind. Okay? Now, where some of the confusion comes in, people will try to grasp and understanding, for an example, of this concept of deity. God, as some people call it in monotheistic religions, as the concept of some creator figure that exists outside of oneself, that has full control over everything in the universe. And as it just said here, there's multiple universes, as it just explained. So the universe is not the all, it's one aspect of the all. And this concept that you call deity resides within the all. They are just manifestations. Now we're going to get down. It's going to refer to it as fragments or manifestations of that all. So where we get confused is we've been duped since we, were much younger and smaller, all of us from an early age, in thinking that understanding existence in itself doesn't go past some super being or some physical being, called God. Now, people are trying to define this definition, confound, to a three-dimensional existence: person, place, and thing. So when confound to a three-density existence, you're going to give a definition based on those principles, meaning the average person will give the definition of what God is or what deity is, and it's going to fall up under one of those three things: person, place, or thing. Understanding this concept exists outside of that. It goes way beyond that. Because the infinite living mind, as it referred to there, that's where the key lies in understanding the mental universe. Okay, let's go on. It'll get a little more clarification on this. Okay, all right. Then if the universe is neither the all nor nothing, what can it be? Let us examine this question. If the universe exists at all, or seems to exist, that's the key word, seems to exist, it must proceed in the same way from the all. It must be a creation of the all. But as something can never come from nothing, from what could the all have created it? Some philosophers have answered this question by saying that the all created the universe from itself. We're going to talk about this for a minute. That is, from the being and substance of the all, but this will not do. For the all cannot be subtracted from, nor divided, as we have seen. And then again, if this be so, would not each particle in the universe be aware of its being the all? The all could not lose its knowledge of itself, nor actually become an atom or blind force or lowly living thing. Some men indeed, realizing that the all is indeed all, and also recognizing that they, the men, existed, have jumped to the conclusion that they and the all were identical, and they have filled the air with shouts of, "I am God." Okay? Let's stop there for a minute, because some of this can sound a little bit confusing if you don't really focus in on it. All right? Let's back up here. It says, not being able to subtract or add to the all. Okay, you hear this term a lot in quantum physics. You can't take from all, you can't add to it. Where would you get it? Where would you put it? All right, so let's focus on that concept. What exactly does that mean? When you go into the Emerald Tablets of Tahuti, right? As we went over that, or we touched on that a multitude of times. There is, in the Philosopher's Stone, you hear Tahuti teaching about what is the one thing. Although these create the illusion that all these things are separate and distinct in themselves, even though they create that illusion, just as you as a physical being, or all of us on the planet have incarnated in a physical form, we are fragments or pieces or multiple different manifestations of what this concept of all is talking about, creating the illusion that it's separate, even though it creates that illusion that it's separate, but it's all from the same one thing. Okay, when we say we're fragments, because some people say, well, about our existence, how did we get here? This concept is explaining, this quantum concept is kind of explaining how that manifestation happened. But again, it's not separate from the one thing or the all. Because again, when dealing with this quantum concept, you can't take from all, you can't add from all. Where would you get it? where would you put it? This is where people get a little mystified in dealing with creation, in dealing with their existence and how they came about, because they can't conceive in their mind, how they got here. If there's not some God that's sitting in the sky controlling everything. Well, understanding this concept, the mental universe, and I'm going to skip around. I'm going to go to the principle of correspondence, which plays a large part in this. Because there has to be a principle of correspondence that connects this, as above, so below, etc. We know there's duality to everything in the universe, but dealing with it from a magical perspective, or dealing with it with spiritual magic, or being an adept of the black arts, all these things exist and are created in the mind. Your thoughts, by the very fact that you think thoughts, you are creating. Because one has to think something first and formulate it on the mental realm, as I said before they can bring it into existence on the physical realm or the objective realm. Okay, this is key in understanding, as I said in the beginning, to working spiritual magic. The very fact that you are formulating thoughts, you are creating energy. Okay, and when you put energy towards those thoughts, you bring them into fruition. And that's why it also works on the opposite side of that spectrum. As we said, there's duality to everything in the universe. If one is constantly walking around all day thinking negative things, by the very thoughts and energy that they're projecting is what they're going to attract to them. Okay, doctrine of correspondence. Okay, that can't be negated, because it's the same thing if one sets out to carry out a magical ritual, and they're doubting themselves before they carry it out. They're creating thoughts or sending energy to thoughts. And in those thoughts, they're doubting they're working. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know that. Well, you've defeated yourself before you've even begun. Because one, by the very fact that you're constantly thinking those thoughts and they're constantly running through your mind, you've actually made the magical working fail before you've even set out to begin it. So one, in a sense, creates their own reality in their mind. Now, let's tap on another aspect of this. Okay, how does this apply to the situation of, we might term some of these people crazy. We might, you hear the term there, some of these people are out of their mind. What about people that think they hear voices? We use the term, they don't appear to be 100% normal, for lack of a better word. Or they think they're incarnations of different deities, or they think there's some great figure from the past. How does this connect to that? Because even though we might look on from somebody from an outside perspective that say that, oh well, I'm an incarnation of one of the pharaohs of Egypt, or I'm an incarnation of Jesus himself. We term these people nuts. Well, what tends to happen is, even though we might term those people nuts, they've tapped into a higher aspect of their subjective realm, and to them that's a reality. It may not be a reality to you, because it's not, you're not able to correlate that reality here in the physical. Now, they tend to tap into such a high influx of thoughts and mental energy, they just don't know how to assimilate it. They don't know how to bring it into perspective, and they don't know how to direct that energy. So what tends to happen, they open themselves up to these energies, and they've now become more so controlled by them, where they can't control them to their benefit. So they hear voices, they're open, they're susceptible and open themselves up to walk-in spirits, for lack of a better word. They're receiving a multitude of communications because they've tapped into a higher aspect of their subconscious mind. And as I said before, that can be dangerous And when you hear us talking about working different systems of magic can be dangerous, this is why we say it can be dangerous. Because when one is not in a sound mind and a sound body, that kind of poses a serious, problem, because it can bring these aforementioned problems. So we can't, negate the fact, or we can't take away, and from the importance of being in sound mind and sound body. Like I said before, we've had on the show Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum, who I would definitely recommend his book, and we've talked about that before, Dark Light Consciousness. And he, one thing that's unique about him, and that's why we've had him on the show several times, is he comes from a scientific and a medical aspect. He has that element in his spirituality, which, as I've said before in the past, is lacking, or is missing on certain levels of spirituality. He gets in depth on the importance of, being, psychologically and being in the right frame of mind, because if one sets out again to practice high systems of magic and not in the right frame of mind, that can cause serious problems. That can cause serious issues for the practitioner or the individual. So we can't negate the fact of not grasping this concept, because when you hear us talking about the subjective realm and the objective realm, you do all of your creating. You bring all of your things into existence when you're working magic on that mental realm or that subjective realm. Now, everything there that you experience is a reality to you, but may not be a reality to the next person or the next individual, because everybody's reality and perceptions are going to vary from individual to individual. So one must understand that. Again, what tends to happen is when people's personal ideologies don't line up, this is where debates will come in, arguments and differences of opinion. And see, that's again when you go outside of yourself and you start debating things that are nonsensical in the sense. The only thing that's important to you as the magician is the reality that you've created for yourself. You're not worried about what everybody else thinks. You're not worried about comparing your shit to other people's shit. You're not trying to emulate anybody. The unique thing about working with the left-hand path and the key, or on this path to self-deification, is just that in essence, creating your own path. It shouldn't be like anybody else's path. You shouldn't find so many similarities. Not saying there's not going to be some, because people that have similar experiences or have gone through similar things that you have, you will see some similarities. But when there's so much structure and when there's so much similarities because you're trying to copy something or somebody, then it doesn't become unique to you, the practitioner of the black arts. And that's key to understand, because that's what this path is about. This path is about creating your own path. Going down this road for the sole purpose, excuse me, I apologize for that. Going down this path for the sole purpose of self-deification. Okay, when we say self-deification, because that leads you to the conclusion, in understanding the mental universe, one understands the only God that rules the universe is you. Nothing outside of you. So I think some people get confused when we talk about, when you hear me talk about, you say nothing exists outside of the subconscious mind. See, we're already programmed to think, are you saying something physically? No, that's not what I'm saying. What we're saying is anything that you can conceive, anything that deals with spirituality, anything that deals with creation, anything that deals with anything on a spiritual, mental, emotional, and a physical level, it's all exists in the subconscious mind. It doesn't exist outside of it. And that's why I say, even though it can create the illusion that it does, but that is not the case. Because no matter what you think of, Okay, I've said this before. No matter how you perceive it as good or bad, and as we said before, there's no such thing as good or bad, positive or negative. They're just varying degrees of vibrational energy, as we've talked about that before a multitude of times. No matter what you think of, it exists. Okay? It doesn't exist outside of your mind. The very fact that you can think about it confirms it exists somewhere. So you might think of something or have a dream about something bizarre. People say, I had this dream about being, in another universe, or I saw these creatures or monsters, or I saw these demons, or I saw this deity, or they just describe these bizarre things. Well, that's something you created somewhere in the mental universe, because that's how you were able to tap into it. And you tapped into it based on it shaped your realities. You made a contact with it somewhere in some shape, form, or fashion. You wouldn't be able to think about it, no matter how bizarre, no matter how it may not. People say you have dreams or experiences and say, man, I really couldn't put it into perspective. It didn't make sense, or it was off the wall. And just as a flip note, you get some that, are some dreams or some experiences or thoughts are just clear as day. But it can't remember. There's always that, two sides to the story, duality to everything in the universe. Again, it's all connected. We just tap into it on different levels. The confusion comes in where when you leave that concept, and this is where religion did a beautiful job at corrupting people's minds. They've now taught you that all of this, there's some force outside of yourself. There's some being outside of yourself that is in control, that controls you and everything in the universe, and you're subject to this control. That couldn't be anything from the furthest thing of the truth. You're only subject to this control if you submit to it. So when you accept the concept in your mind that there is a physical being that exists outside of yourself that is controlling you and everything in the universe, now you become susceptible to that control, because you give life and power to it by just creating the thought. The thought in itself carries energy, just like this, dealing with this concept of the mental universe. And by the very fact that you think that thought and have accepted its reality, you've now given it life. That's what this is about. So it's as easy as eliminating it and just not accepting it. Because, again, as I said before, that's the problem with a lot of religions and dogmas. It's a outward journey and not an inward journey out. For one to really understand the Creator, and I've mentioned this before, one has to understand themselves on all levels, everything about themselves. This is important to understand also on the left-hand path and the path of self-deification. Being able to really recognize your strengths and your weaknesses, and being able to use that for your beneficial. To use it for on a multitude of levels beneficially, in working spiritual systems of magic. Because when you identify your strengths and your weaknesses, you learn to subdue your weaknesses and draw more upon your strengths. And when you can recognize both aspects of it, it puts you in the right direction, and it puts you on a path where you can now, be able to clearly visualize and understand what you're working with and how to work with it, and how to make sure your weaknesses don't interfere with that. The reality is, it's easier to accept, again, I've said this before, about yourself, all the things that are good, and the things that, well, let's say the self-created things that you have created and made yourself think that is good about yourself. But most people don't want to recognize their weaknesses. They don't want to recognize their faults. This is important, and you hear us talk about this a lot on the show. Going into the abyss of the subconscious mind, and addressing, a lot of the bullshit about yourself. One has to also do that effectively before they can be productive in carrying out successful magic. You cannot go into that abyss or not address that abyss of the subconscious mind and have success, on a consistent level. So this topic is really important because this comes up a lot. This comes up in questions. It comes up in I get emails on this. It comes up a lot. People get stuck and they get a little bit trapped with this concept because they don't know how to put it into perspective, because it's confirmation, sad to say, and it's a reality, that they're still highly influenced by monotheism or some type of religion, or dogma or doctrine, no matter how long ago or how recent they came out of it. Now, there's people that claim to be, that deal with metaphysics, the occult, etc., and they still, they've been practicing for years and they still don't grasp this. I get stuck when I see people who claim to be conscious, and say they have left religion and they're not under the spell of a lot of these false concepts of man-made religions, but they'll claim to be heavy into Egypt and they'll say shit again. Like I said before, the Most High. That confuses me. The Most High of who and what? You are the Most High. Okay? Because there's nothing outside and beyond you. And if you still can't grasp that concept and you say, well, I don't understand, how did I get here? Then you're still thinking subconsciously that there's some deity that created you and everything, because you can't break the chain of that slave thought. That's what being a real slave is, not just the, that's being a mental slave. It goes beyond being a physical slave. And being a slave mentally is 50 times worse. Because if I can enslave you mentally and control your thoughts, I could pretty much get you to do anything that I want you to do, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So these concepts have to be grasped when one goes to working spiritual magic, because all of these thoughts are going to be key in fueling your intent. And I can't focus enough on that, the importance of fueling your intent. You always must be clear when you're setting out to work any type of spiritual magic. What is your intent? You should visualize your intent, what you're setting out to do, what you're trying to accomplish. If you don't do that beforehand, you're pretty much wasting your time. It's not just as simple as saying, I want to do this particular ritual or practice, and this is what I want, and then you just go do it. That's not how you should do it. You should really sit down, contemplate, and give meaningful thought to what you're trying to carry out. The thought in itself is sending energy out. Then it gets to the point that becomes so powerful when you start thinking things. As you gain experience in this, things start to happen. So that can't be stressed enough. Intent is key in understanding the mental universe is key. All right. I'm going to finish out with, this section here. I'm going to finish out with this last paragraph of this section here. Okay, do not make the mistake of supposing that the little world you see around you, notice it said the little world, the earth, which is a mere grain of dust in the universe, is the universe itself. There are millions upon millions of such worlds and greater, and there are millions and millions of such universes in existence within the infinite mind of the all. There's a multitude of universes within the existence of the infinite mind of the all. And what does infinite mean? Infinite means never ending. It's undefinable. There's no beginning, no end. That's another place where people get stuck, because they can't grasp this concept if there's no beginning or end put on it. To understand the infinite mind, or the infinite mind of the all, or the potential of tapping into that, the mental universe, and working spiritual magic, there is no limitations. There is no boundaries. You can tap into all of this like I said, the multitude of universes that exist. You can tap into that. That's why I said no matter what you think of, no matter what you dream of, it exists somewhere in the infinite mind of all. Okay? And even in our own little solar system, there are regions and planes of life far higher than ours, and beings compared to which we earthbound mortals are as the slimy life forms that dwell in the ocean's bed when compared to man. There are things with powers and attributes higher than man that has ever dreamed of the gods possessing, and yet these beings were once as you and still lower, and you will even be as they and still higher in time, for such is the destiny of man as reported by the illuminated. And death is not real, even in the relative sense. It is but birth to new life. We talk about that all the time. When you hear us talking about dark magic, when you hear us talking about working with spirits of the dead, okay, that death represents regeneration and new life. That's all it means. It doesn't mean anything gloomy and eerie and evil, or what one term determines as evil. All right? So it's a birth to a new life, and you shall go on and on and on and on to a higher and still higher planes of life for eons upon eons of time. The universe is your home, and you shall explore its farthest reaches before the end of time. You are dwelling in the infinite mind of the all, and your possibilities and opportunities are infinite, both in time and space. And at the end of the grand cycle of eons, when the all shall draw back into itself of all its creations, you will go gladly, for you will then be able to know the whole truth of being at one with the all. Such is the report of the illumined, those who advance well along the path. And in the meantime, rest calm and serene. You are safe and protected by the infinite power of the father and mother mind, the masculine and feminine principle. Okay? Within the father-mother mind, moral children are at home. There is not one who is fatherless nor motherless in the universe. So now it's talking about, in that thought process, there's the masculine and feminine energy. They got it. So again, one has to grasp this concept and separate themselves from every fictitious illusion if they want to be successful at practicing magic. As I said before, you have to separate yourself from everything that's had not a good influence over you, for you personally, not good for you personally. When one is coming to the table to work these systems of magic, okay, one, regardless of their, again, your personal belief, your ideologies you may have, you have to leave all that shit at the front door. Check it at the front door, because it's going to hinder your spiritual growth. And as I said, we've talked about this a multitude of times. Real black magic is manipulation of the subconscious mind. You must be retaught everything that you were taught, because everything we've been taught, for the most part, has been incorrect. We've been programmed and indoctrinated from early birth, which has had such an impact on our minds, that we think we regardless of how long we quote unquote have become conscious, we think that it's out of our system, but it's not. And that's what we mean when we say we have to address all the bullshit about ourselves, going into the abyss of the subconscious mind, seeing what affects us, because those things that have impacted the subconscious mind can have a detrimental effect if not addressed. This is all part of the mental universe on all levels. This is all part of understanding it, tapping into it, working with it. And as I said a few minutes back, understanding your strengths and weaknesses in that system. I'm telling you, man, this shit is all mental. Can we hear that? All is mental, mental is all. Man, there can't be nothing more factual than that statement in itself. Because, look, again, just the very fact, like you say, you start thinking about something so much, it happens. You put energy and thought power to it, it happens. Now again, we don't say this in a spooky sense. You still got to carry out work. Work needs to get done to be successful. So let's, we want to make sure we're not putting a spook element in there. But never underestimate the power of thought and the power of the mind and the mental universe, which is an aspect or ties into this concept of the subjective realm. Okay, these are all intertwined. So now, by understanding that and grasping those concepts, this is how one is able again to tap into their subjective realm and bring that or manifest that or make that work or bring it into fruition or existence, whatever term you want to use, on your objective realm. So these are the core principles, and I think I'm going to stop there. These are the core principles that one really needs to grasp. These are the foundations that one really needs to grasp and understanding on how to work successfully, how to work magic successfully, I should say. So I hope that takes the spookism out of it. Hope that takes out all the, again, as I said before, because unfortunately people hear black magic, being an adept of the black arts, etc., and they still got all this negative bullshit in their mind. They still got all this Hollywood media, internet, movie, TV, all this shit they've been programmed with. That's not what I mean when I say I'm an adept of the black arts. The stuff that I'm talking about tonight, being able to tap into the mental universe, loosening myself from the mental chains of slavery, all those false thoughts, dogmas and doctrines and illusions that have pinned me down for years, or that have engulfed me in a sea of lies. One has to break free from all that first to be successful, before they can work with any level of magic, before you can get into working with symbols, sigils, chaos magic, sex magic, you name it, any spiritual system. One has to free their mind of all the delusions and illusions that it has left. When one can break free from that and dive into these magical systems with a clear mind and clear thought, one is going to reap the benefits and tap into the great potential and results that it can provide. Now, like I said, bottom line, at the end of the day, it's about fucking results. I don't care what anybody says. So you could be studying and reading and practicing shit for years. If it's keeping you stagnated, you're not growing, you're not moving up, you're not moving forward, and you're not going back. That's just as bad as regressing, because sometimes it's even worse to just be at a standstill. So at the end of the day, the shit is about results. Don't let nobody fool you. So, I mean, you could sit here and read a million books on Egypt, magic, alchemy, and all this stuff, and again, have it all remembered, rehearsed, and be able to regurgitate it, and on the outside you sound deep, it sounds heavy, but you can't put a lick of it into practice. What good is that? But the reality is, unfortunately, we have that going on in what we quote unquote call the conscious community. Unfortunately, we got a lot of regurgitators of information. They sound good, they sound deep, it caters to some people's emotions. They get sucked in because it's feeding their ego and their emotions. But again, at the end of the day, there is no results. So bottom line is always and always will be about results. Whatever systems you're practicing spiritually, what is it doing for you on a spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical level? You'll find on most parts that what most people fuck with, they have the imbalances. They have maybe the physical part down packed, but they're lacking in the spiritual and the mental. Most don't have the physical part strapped down. When I say the physical part, I'm not just talking about you physically and your health and all that is important. I'm saying the physical, the results that it produces. Most people don't have that down pat. They're not getting the results on their physical realm or objective realm. Again, they could sit there and regurgitate and spit information for hours. They're basically walking encyclopedias, but no results. See, I only fuck with results, period. And when somebody gets to a certain level, when an adept of the black arts gets to a certain level, they don't feel the need to have to prove shit all the time. Okay? Because they don't need to prove shit all the time because they're getting results. And if you're seeing the results, the only person you need to confirm or prove some shit to is you. That's it. See, we spend so much time arguing stupid shit with people, and we waste our energy debating stupid shit with people when we haven't really even got our shit together, because we're focused so much on doing things outside of ourselves that are unnecessary. Now look, it don't mean, let me stress this, it don't mean if somebody comes at you with some nonsense or incorrect bullshit from a knowledge or information perspective, that you don't address that shit and squash it. That's not what I'm saying. By all means you do that, but it doesn't mean you go out of your way looking to get into nonsensical confrontations and debates. So added to the black arts, don't waste their time and energy with that shit. They don't feed life to it, because if you feed energy and life to it or give it thought power, you're now making that you're making it become stronger and more powerful. All right. Anyway, we could talk about this shit for hours. We could talk about this shit for nights, for days upon days. I wanted to go over just some of the core principles of the mental universe. So I hope that gives you some of the foundation and the structure and the right mindset to approach working spiritual magic. So I hope that helped. And again, real quick, for those in the area, a couple quick announcements. Don't forget to tune into the show Thursday nights, Awakening Universal Minds on TalkShoe.com. On the weekend of November 18th and 19th, the weekend before Thanksgiving, we will be having a ancestral ritual for the ancestors, including a drumming ceremony, if you're interested in attending that. And then we are doing a class the following day. We'll have Brother Ravananu from the radio show join me on that class down here in Miami. And again, it's free. There's no charge. You can hit me up at khnum19@gmail.com to give you information for those events. And also, if you are interested in a spiritual consultation, you can contact me also. I appreciate the multitude of people that have reached out for that. I appreciate their patience too. As I get contacted, I go in order, and I'm pretty, as much as I can, I'm pretty efficient, so I don't make people wait for long. But I do, again, ask, and most people have been doing that, to at least call a few days in advance when you want a spiritual consultation. Don't try to call the day of or the day before, because I can't promise I can get to it within a day. Usually I plan it and spread it out a couple of days out, and I'm pretty efficient. Don't have to wait long. I do appreciate people's patience, and I do appreciate the many people that have reached out for those spiritual consultations. And if you're interested in one of those, you can definitely hit me up at the same email address, khnum19@gmail.com. I will address some of the basic questions I get about the consultations, because usually the inquiry emails are about the same thing. How much do they cost? How long do they last? And how do you do it? So I'm going to address that right now. They last up until an hour. I do charge $55 to do it. And it can be done by a multitude of levels. It can be done over the phone. It can be done via Skype. It can be done the Emo app. It can be done Google Hangouts. Most people do it Skype if you can't get to me physically face to face. And then obviously it can be done face to face if you're able to get to me physically face to face. So again, it can be done via the phone. It can be done Skype. It can be done Emo, Google Hangouts, multitude of methods, or face to face. It lasts up until 1 hour, whichever comes first, till we're done, or an hour. And it's $55. It can be paid via PayPal. It can be paid via Square Register. Very simple. So I like to address those questions because I get those in the emails all the time. Again, how does the consultation work? What does it cost? How is it done? So I'm going to answer those basic questions. So again, if you are interested in that, you can hit me up at that same email address, khnum19@gmail.com, khnum19@gmail.com. And you could just basically tell me your availability, and we could set something up if that's what you're interested in doing. So, having said that, I think that's all I got for you this evening. Have no idea what we're going to talk about on the next one. I'll figure that shit out when time comes, and we'll see everybody on the next one. Peace.